Well, President Obama is heading south on the border later this week. Planning on stopping in Costa Rica and Mexico, the president is slated to discuss U.S.-Latin American relations moving forward. Among those issues, economic ties binding to the different countries and the U.S. to that region. Now, one of the most pressing issues on the table is the seemingly endless war on drugs. Voices within the Obama administration have indicated that newly elected Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto might take a different approach with the war on drugs than his predecessor, Felipe Calderón, did. Critics worry that Peña Nieto could be willing to scale back on the aggressive strategy against drug kingpins in exchange for calmer streets. To talk more about this possible shift, joining me now is John Ackerman. He's a law professor at the National Autonomous University in Mexico. Hi there, John. Can you talk a little bit more about the differences between current Mexican President Peña Nieto and former President Calderón?
Hi, how you doing? A pleasure to be with you. Well, I would say the differences are more discursive and superficial than they are profound. Peña Nieto has a new discourse. He's saying new things. He's saying that instead of this all-out battle, armed military battle against drug cartels, he wants to prioritize the health and the well-being of Mexicans. This is a good sign, but in fact, on the ground, what we're seeing happening is more of the same. Peña Nieto has not pulled the military out of the street. He has not set any kind of timeline to do so either. He has continued with the same strategies as Felipe Calderón. His relationship with the United States looks like it might change. It might be that, from the reports that we've been seeing, that the Mexican government is not going to collaborate as much with the U.S. authorities. This could be good news, but the fear is that he will be doing so just to cover up an increase in corruption and cutting deals with the narco-traffickers.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask you about, because obviously Peña Nieto made it his big election goal to really curb this violence and to get the streets of Mexico to be more calm. But critics have said that he's willing to scale back that pursuit of cartel kingpins in order to calm down those streets. Is there any validity to that? And is it possible to actually keep those dangerous criminals on the streets that could make it safer?
Well, I think we have to look at it from two points of view. First of all, I think it's not really correct to characterize the Calderón strategy as an all-out battle against the cartels. Calderón picked favorites as well. He negotiated with cartel members, and he did not go after the most important issues, for instance, like corruption in a superficial way and money laundering. It was more of a public relations display, putting the military on the streets. He didn't actually get down and attack the cartels head on. I think Peña Nieto is staying in the same idea, a public relations display, this time about supposedly reducing violence, although he has not been effective so far, while on the ground using the military and negotiating with the cartels. The danger here is that by putting the number of homicides as the number one objective, which is what Peña has said, reducing that, that's a great thing. But if you do that instead of, or if you do that by allowing the cartels to take over large parts of the country, increasing extortion, reducing the rule of law, in the long run, all of us in North America are going to pay for that. So the worrisome thing about Peña Nieto is that effectively he comes from the old guard of the PRI, and the way in which the old guard of the PRI, the Revolutionary Institutional Party, which was in power for 70 years, the way in which they're used to dealing with these issues is by sitting down at the table with the narcos and not actually installing a rule of law. So we're going to have to be very attentive and watch how things develop in Mexico.
At the same time, however, you say that Calderón did not install like this really crazy, very forceful kind of presence. But at the same time, Calderón requested in 2006 that President Bush send him armed drones for the use in the drug war, because he was so impressed with the ways that the drones worked out in Afghanistan against Al-Qaeda. Obviously, President Bush declined. But is it fair to compare Al-Qaeda with these Mexican drug cartels in the first place?
No, not at all. When I was talking about Calderón, it wasn't that he didn't do this military display and attack on the drug cartels. All I was saying is that he wasn't actually doing a systematic effort to eliminate the drug cartels in an objective and effective way. It was more of a publicity show, and that was part of it. Look, he asked, this is really quite remarkable, came on the Washington Post this weekend, that Calderon pleaded with Bush for armed drones to come and knock out the cartel leaders. Now, this would have been an incredible scandal in Mexican public opinion to have drones coming in and shooting down on Mexican territory. This would be in extreme violation of the Mexican Constitution, as it would be of the United States Constitution if Mexico send armed drones to knock out U.S. citizens on their side of the border. So yes, it was a very irresponsible strategy, that one of Calderon. And the worrisome thing is that the Peña Nieto strategy might be equally responsible, although in a different direction.
And John, let me stop you there for just a second.
Civil society is the real solution. Yes, yes.
And let me stop you there for just a second, because President Bush did decline to actually give him those drones, but at the same time, he did allow the Mexican military the opportunity to determine where the drone pilots would fly. Is there a difference between the two? Should we be as concerned as we would be handing over those drone technologies?
Okay, well, we have to look at different perspectives. First of all, there are drones. What we're talking about here specifically are armed drones. Those were not flown over Mexico, at least according to the Washington Post. But presently, there are almost every day, or at least every month, unarmed drones flying over Mexican territory, run either by the U.S. or by the Mexicans. Mexico itself has purchased drones itself. Now, this drone technology is worrisome insofar as it can be used for political motives, insofar as it can be used as create collateral damage on the ground in Mexico. So that's the worrisome thing. I don't think that the Mexicans can trust the Americans in the United States to direct and run the show. That's been part of the problem, because the United States' priority has always been to protect the United States border and keep the violence to the south of the border. Have the Mexicans pay the blood for the drug war, while the Mexicans should be thinking more about their own well-being.
And despite that, still so many deaths. And Mexico remains the U.S. market's largest supplier of heroin, crystal meth, and marijuana. John Ackerman, law professor at the National Autonomous University in Mexico, thank you so much for your insight.
Great to talk to you.